Hello everyone, welcome back to another Framer Discovery Streams. The idea of Framer Discovery Streams is to help you get started with Framer on the right track and understand the basics of it through a walkthrough video and a build along kind of a style. Um, if you want to follow through, you can follow through, but it's just mostly me trying to go through the most important aspects of Framer. My name is Arjun. I've been a multidisciplinary designer for the last 14 years and building websites without code for the last 9 years, and especially building websites without code using Framer for the last 2 years now as a Framer expert. And I hope these kind of streams will help you. But today, we'll just get started with today's topic as CMS and building dynamic pages, going beyond the static pages. So let me showcase what we've been talking about so far. All right, here we are. So in the last few live streams, we have looked into the possibilities of Framer and what Framer is as an overarching thing and where does Framer sit in the world of visual builders and no code. And we have seen how to work with components, the preset components of Framer, as well as trying to bring the components from external sources and trying to customize it and see how to quickly build the website. So if you want to catch up on to those things, the stream links are available. And on to day 3, we have seen in the previous live stream, especially how to build custom interactions and simple effects. So I hope that will help you get to speed in understanding the simple aspects that you can pick up with Framer. Today we are going to look into a little bit about the CMS or dynamic pages as we call it, and we'll get started with understanding what dynamic pages are and then see some examples and then build a CMS section and see how we can leverage that. So let's get started. All right, what you see here is our own page where we consult and do services, offer services on the no-code front, building websites and web apps. And here, especially on Framer, we have a couple of things that are there. Framer Flex is our own resource place where we offer free and paid resources on Framer components, which are built extensively, especially each of these components having multiple variants that you can choose from. And why did I bring this up is because if you're thinking about dynamic pages, this is where we can get started in terms of understanding as an example. So in this page, you see a lot of component packs are there, and each component pack has a certain amount of detail associated with it. So, and if you can open up each of these detail to see what the component is all about and interact with it and see the other device variants that are there as well as other variants that are available. So this is more or less like a detail page, and we go back to the what we call index page, and these are super important things to understand. And if we go on to any other component as well, it will go into its own detail page, which is pretty much has the same structure with a top header and then going on to the variants, and each of these variants is sized a certain way, and then we have an ability to purchase this pack and then ability to go back to other packs. So this structure does not change from one pack to another pack. So for example, if we go to FAQs, we have FAQ related things, and then we scroll down, we go to testimonials, we have another structure, very similar structure, just a little change in the actual content that is happening. And this is where dynamic pages come in, because we are trying to build the page once and see how we can scale it and repeat it across other things which share the similar structure. So that's the idea of a dynamic page, going beyond the static page, which is where you are customizing every single section of it and seeing how to actually put the content here. So this is where CMS can begin. Beyond this, You can see some of the other sections on our own Xperian School, where you can go ahead and sign up for Weekend Framer workshop that is there, a much more advanced level where you are going from novice to a professional. So this is just beyond the basics that I'm trying to cover in the live streams, where there's a lot more aspects for you to understand if you want to take it up as a profession. So here as well, we have the testimonials, and all of these testimonials are powered by CMS. So right now we don't have any detailed page of sorts for each of these testimonials. Clicking on this testimonial will take you to that particular profile. But the idea is to see how we can bring in content from a centralized place. So that's another important aspect of a CMS, where it gives you a centralized place to manage all the content that you put out on the website, or a specific content that you choose. Here is another example. Again, something that we have taken in the previous live streams, Runway, AI, and here as well, you can see there are quite a few sections that you can guess that they may be coming in from a CMS. So perhaps the content from that is there in each of these tabs is also CMS driven. We're not 100% sure, but we can guess. But there are things like this, where this is about their research, and each of these posts is a CMS, running from CMS by itself. So let's go ahead and check that out. So this is about general world models. It has its own post kind of a style. And when we go back, we open this up, we have another one loading, very similar structure. And that's a post by itself. And they have their own blog, Runway blog, which is dedicated to even more important topics across, with rich content that is there, with videos and imagery coming in, GIFs being added, all of these things. So this becomes another CMS page. Some of these things you can be for sure that they are CMS driven, because it's very hard to build each and every page like this from scratch, because they share the content. It's best to build once and try and scale and repeat it. So likewise, we have another site here, which is from Stripe. And yes, they have their own blog, but what I want to showcase to you is there are even sections which are powered by CMS. So all of this data is coming from a centralized location, and of course, the right hand side, all the graphic content is changing according to the position of your scroll that is there, but the data is being loaded from a centralized place. So these are the kind of things that you can do as well. So you have an ability to manage all of this content with ease. And let me showcase where this Framer CMS is living inside of this particular tool, Framer. All right, so let's switch back. This is one of the pages that we have built in the previous live streams. And the idea is to see how we can leverage the CMS aspects to see if we can load the content from a centralized place and scale it up. So we can get started with a simple thing here, where we have these testimonials, and each of these testimonials has a certain amount of content. But today, the way this is built, if we want to change any of these testimonials, we have to come to this specific page. So that's one step in terms of navigating to this particular page and going ahead and doing live edits on top of these things. So some of the things that you may not benefit by doing so is you may lose the structure of this particular page when you're doing any of these content edits. When you may also accidentally trigger something else in terms of the styling, in terms of the positioning and things like that. And you also don't have a centralized place to see all of these things together as a one collection, one big collection. So that's where we start. We see how we can make use of CMS to load all of this content rather than all of this content coming directly here. To do that, first thing first, what we can do is go into the CMS right here on the top left, and you can go ahead and import a CSV. If you have already a set of collection that you are trying to bring it from elsewhere into Framer, you can do so by importing a CSV. You can also add a blog. Clicking on it basically adds a simple collection, blog posts, and this particular blog post collection has multiple blog posts, and each of these blog posts can be expanded into their details. So the idea of CMS starts here. What we can do right now is we will kind of delete this right now. We don't need anything to be added. We'll just go here and add a new collection called testimonials. And right here, it's all empty. We don't have any fields being added here. We don't have any testimonials being added here. But you can start from a simple place, which is you can add a new item. And one of the important things to note is if you want to get to the collection quickly, you have to understand. Let me just delete this. We'll get to that in a bit. Understand what are the fields that are there that you want to load dynamically from a centralized place. So one is the name, and we have the handle of that person. We have the actual content or the quote that they have given. And these are the three pieces of content that is there for every single thing. And that's what we are trying to do by adding the fields. So let's go back to the CMS. And when you add a new item, these three are the fields that you need to add. So first thing first, we know that the title is nothing but the name of that person. So we can type in the name. Let's actually go to the edit fields, which is where we see all of these fields that are there. Whenever you are adding a new item, you are literally adding item to the existing fields. But whenever you want to edit the fields, this is where you go. And here, instead of using it as a title, we are just going to say this is name. And a slug is nothing but the little bit of that URL that you see whenever you are opening the exact kind of a page, especially if you are going into a blog post detail, the URL that you see in your address bar on top of the browser window, that is nothing but a slug. So you will see that the slug portion of it has more or less the second portion of the URL, not the first portion where your website domain is. So right now, if the domain is, let us say, xyz.com, that it will be excluded from this and it will only show the page structure right now from there. So right now we have /blog and /post title. We can change that as well, but let's first get to the more important thing. So the content is what is the quote given by this person, but we have to add one more thing, which is the handle of that person. So whenever you add any of these fields, you have an ability to go ahead and take care of the other details in terms of what is the description of this field. So you can say name of the person. This will only be visible to you or anybody who's editing the content and not publicly wherever you are doing. And we have the field requirement, whether this is a required field or not. You can say yes, because the name is the most important thing. And you can set the maximum length of the characters, and there are other customizations you can do in terms of what is the default name in case you want to have any placeholder for it, and whether this is a single line or a text area where multiple lines can be written. So right now it's just a single line, and we can just go on to proceed to add more fields, and you can add all of these fields to your CMS, which means whenever you're building dynamic pages, these are all the content types that are pretty much supported, which is you can add a plain text, you can add a formatted text, which is nothing but a rich text, like how you write emails and make some of the words bold, italic, and things like that. That's nothing but a formatted text. And we can add links, hyperlinks specifically. We can add images, colors specifically. Sometimes you use colors just to identify the posts and things like that. You can add a toggle button, you can add options, you can add numbers, dates, and you can also upload files. So all of these things are supported. Right now what we need is just a simple plain text, which is nothing but the handle of that person. So at handle, let me actually describe this. Handle, let us say Twitter, or today it's called X handle, and by default as a placeholder we'll just say this is at handle, so they know the format of how we have to put the handle. And we can just rearrange this here, drag and drop, and the slug can come last, and this is the content. The order that you put these fields here is the order in which it appears when you go back and start adding a new item. And this is the exact order that it is coming in. So if you want to change the order of these fields, you go back here into the edit field and you change the order, and it will change it like that. So now let's go back and add these fields. We can simply add all of these things. This is definitely a little bit of a manual work if you're copying everything, but if you have all of this content ready, it'll be even more easier. Right now, we'll just add a few of them and see how we can connect them all. Okay, so this is saved. Let me bring the content as well. So whenever you are pasting the content, wherever you have a link or a hyperlink associated with that particular thing, you will see all of those hyperlinks coming in as well. So please take note of the formatting whenever you are copy pasting it from elsewhere, especially when you're bringing your CMS content from one platform to another platform. The way the formatting is done on Framer or any other platform is very different because the engines are different, which actually run all of these things. So it's good to have a good clean format so that it's cross compatible with among the platforms. And let me bring another one with this time it's Dan, and we have CMS. Close this. We can add a new item here right from here. And we can go back, save changes. All right. So now we have at least 2 of them that are there. We can go back and we'll see how to actually connect all of these things to the CMS so that they are powered by that. A simple thing that you can do is, first thing first, you can go into the insert panel, and once you go into the CMS, you will see all your collection lists that you have added onto here. So we have a collection list of testimonials. We don't have any collection fields as such right now, but let's go ahead and drag this collection list. So the moment you drag the collection list, some of the things happen. One is definitely on the left hand side layers panel, you will see the collection list happening, which is its own unique layer type that is there, and which is super important for you to add any of the CMS collections. But this post, this is what is essentially what we are having as a card here, because right now the fundamental building block here in terms of how we build the layout is a simple card. So here what is happening is it's an unstyled version of this particular thing. It's just giving a generic way of just adding these content, which is the name and the handle, and you can add more, especially the content type. But for now, we are going to just delete this thing, and it's just an empty collection list right now. And on the right hand side panel, you will see that, especially under CMS content properties, you will see the testimonials as a collection selected. You can change the collection to something else if you want to. And sorting is default, which is the sorting that is taken care. How you sort it here is how it appears. So it is Dan and Daniel, and that is the kind of sorting that happens here as well. And then you can do the filters on top of this. You can add some filters if you want to. We'll not delve into that right now, but let's just go ahead and add this simple card into this collection. So I copy it, I paste it into this. There we go. So right now it is showing us 2 things because we only have 2 items which we have added in your CMS. So now it's important to bind this content, especially how we want to. Right now the content is copied from here, so it is not connecting automatically to the CMS. But if we go ahead and get into the text properties, here you will see that the content field shows that it is manually added right now, but you can actually bind it with CMS, which is you can add the variable called to the name. So it takes the name of the first person that is in the order, and likewise you can connect the handle as well. Go to the content, set it to handle. So you're binding this to handle, and here you are going ahead and binding this content to content. So now the moment you bind it, you see that it is dynamically loading the content from wherever we have added it. Pretty much it's the same content, but you see the styling is changing. That's because we have a customized text style that we've added here. Basically, we just have to use the same styling here. But because it's a rich text field where we can add a lot more things in terms of titles and hierarchy, in terms of heading 1, heading 2, and things like that, you can customize all of these styles which are given to you as a preset, and you can edit this to get into the style properties of this particular heading and how it should appear. Right now we'll just consider about the body. So the way we have done this is we have set it to PT serif, if I'm not wrong. So we'll just do that. And this is definitely regular. Styles, what styles are there? You can map it. If the font has a bold style, you can map it to bold. Sometimes bold maps to semi-bold or something else. So you can go ahead and choose the exact variations here. And the size of this particular thing is 16. And what else? The color of this is 666 and 666 with line height running to 1.6 em, or you can convert this to percentage, which is easier way to do this. I'll just set this to 140 or 160 maybe. There you go. So we'll just give the same kind of a styling here. Going into the paragraph body, edit 16. This is definitely 160%. If you have multiple paragraphs, you can set the space between each of these paragraphs. Right now we don't. But if you want to, you can set this to a good practice is to set the same height, same space of this paragraph as to the size of this font. And you can also set the color to 666. Does that match? Yes. So there we go. We have also style. So you see that whenever we bind things like this, you don't have to bind again and again for each and every single item. Once you bind it for one item, it will kind of repeat it for the other items as well. So you see that the second testimonials has already loaded just like this. Now it's time for us to customize exactly how this layout happens. And to see that, right now the way we have this layout is we have an overall stack within which we have 3 different columns, because that's how we got this uneven, asymmetric, or in other words, a masonry kind of a grid layout, which is very unique. And that's because we have 3 different columns running, and each of this has different length of content, and that's kind of adjusting automatically. So we will replicate this, and what we will do here is basically we just need to have this collection list inside the stack. We don't have to necessarily build the whole stack by itself. So we will just drag it into this particular stack, and we'll just try and remove the first one. So this is pretty much set to fill. Just checking on these things. So right now the width of this is defined as a specific width, as a fixed width, but instead I'll just set this to fill, and I will do 2 more collections like this by duplicating them using Command D. And each of these collections is coming from the same place, but this time what I can do is, let me just set the spacing of this right, probably just 20 pixels. There you go. And for this particular first column, if you have more content, you will see a lot more of this coming up. But let us say, for example, I should not have removed all of that. At least we have some content to do. So let me do this. I'll just take a duplicate of this. So you see that there are 2 testimonial sections. Now, just this alone, I'll just try and replace it with this stats. Alright, so this is a dynamic thing that we are trying to build. We'll just set this to fill, and and we'll repeat it 2 more times. Now we have 3 things. We'll just set the spacing of all of these things that are there to 20, and now we can go into the first column, collection list, and we will say something called, we'll add something called start offset. We will also add something called limit, which means that you can limit the number of items that are being shown in this collection. Right now I'm just limiting it to 2, let's say, or 3 maybe. And we will start at 1, the first testimonial. In the second collection list, we can add the same things, start offset and limit. We'll again limit it to 3, and we'll start this time at 4, because the first 3 things are loading from here, and the second collection item needs to start from the 4th testimonial on to 4, 5 and 6 basically. And the third one will repeat the same thing, start offset and at the limit is 3, start at 4, 5, 6, and then so start at 7. So this way, right now the collection list is showing empty because we have added only 2 testimonials. But if we go ahead and add the rest of the testimonials, you will see all of this content being populated. So that's a simple thing. So let me just go ahead and quickly add all of these things. Actually, I'll just copy the core content, rest I can write it. Okay. So that's one thing. Quickly, this is from Lauren. Save changes. Order. Is that the one that I've written? Yeah. Alright, very quickly for the rest of the as well. Day 1 pixel each. Again, if you have the content already set elsewhere, written down elsewhere, it's easy to get that up as a Excel sheet or a CSV, and then you can add all of those items here, which makes it even more faster. And we have this. The last one here, equal changes, that's DBV. And that's it. And as you can see, as I scroll up, you will see all the content automatically being loaded. And again, we just do a cross check as to why this is not loading all 3 items. So something is missing here. Again, the order of it depends on the order of the CMS items that you have added. So let's just make sure that this is the order. Daniel, Money, and Lauren coming first. actually set the sort by to sending. So this is more like a manual sort that is there. Tables here, Parker's here, is here. Well, yeah. So there's one thing that's not coming up, which is Miguel. This one. Let's just check on this. 3. Okay, let's do this. We'll start at 0. This is one peculiar thing that can happen. So when you start from 0, it will take the first, second, and third properly. And when you start this at 2, 3, start at 3, and this can actually start at 6. There. So now we can actually delete this one, which is a static content, replaced by a completely dynamic content. So you have a centralized area right now to manage this whole CMS part. You can go into the CMS and edit any of these things right from here. And likewise, you can have many more collections like this. By default, I think on a free plan, Framer supports just 1 or 2 CMS collections. And you have to probably upgrade your plan to get access to adding more CMS collections. So that's something to take note of. But otherwise, we have it all here, completely powered dynamically. So this is one part where you can make the existing sections into completely CMS driven. There's another thing that you can do, which is actually adding something like a blog post. So like how we have done it earlier, we can add a new CMS collection page right from here and add. You can add a sample, which is the blog right now. Let's just see what are the things that it adds. Right now it has given us 5 simple blog posts that we can customize if we want to. We can go into the edit fields and just go ahead and customize these fields. But when we go back, we will see that again Framer gives us a indication that there are 2 things that are being added. One is the index page, like exactly how we have seen as an example previously. You may have a site which has all the components laid out, so that becomes an index page which lists all of the items that are there. And then if you click on any of these individual items, here in case we have a blog post item, it will open up the details of that blog post. So that becomes a detail page. So both of these pages are automatically added for you to customize it when you go back to your web pages on Framer. So you can close this and you will see that you have all the blog posts listed here as index pages. And if you go into the pages, you open up this page. Inside this is a detail page. And this detail page is a templatized page that is being created for you, because one of the core aspect of how a CMS functions, especially if you are building index and the detail pages, is the structure of each of these things can remain pretty much the same. If you want to customize the structure, you can customize it a little bit and in terms of showing it for a few blog post details and hiding it for others and things like that using filters and conditions. But more or less, to a large extent, your structure remains the same, and it's only the content inside it that's actually changing. So from here, you can switch between this particular item or any other blog post here and see how the content alone changes, but the structure remains. It's a very quick way to navigate. You can actually navigate hundreds of things like this, and no wonder they have given a simple search bar to actually go to a certain particular thing, because if you are scaling this up, it can get very hard for you to actually go ahead and manually scroll and select each one of it or whichever you want to get to, but simply doing a simple search will get you there very quickly. Let us say we are doing navigation related thing, press enter and it will automatically take you there. This particular detail page works like any other page on your Framer, so you may want to definitely add all of the responsiveness to these things. But the goodness is, once you define this page in terms of responsiveness and exactly how it should function and all the interactivity and animations, it will repeat that for every single page that you have here. So build it once and scale it. That's the idea. And right from here, you are given an ability to add the content if you want to. And you can go ahead into the content fields and drag any of these content fields that you have set up in terms of title, image, and content that's been set up for the blog post. And if you want to add more, you can go ahead and add. But remember, whatever you change that you do to this particular template, it will affect every other template as well. But if you want to hide a few of these aspects based on conditions, you can do that as well. So that's a little bit of an advanced aspect, but I hope this has given you enough understanding of how to work with simple CMS pages and add content that can scale up, both in terms of existing pages and utilizing it for specific sections, as well as adding a simple blog post or any other thing that you may have. So we'll take a pause here and see if any of you who have joined have any questions on top of this. Let's take a look at that. Okay. If you have any questions, you can write in, especially if you're joining in via live stream, you can add your live stream comments there, and I can actually read it out from here, and we'll see if we can discuss anything on CMS. Okay, so that's all that I had for today in terms of the CMS. If you have no questions, we'll just move on to and wrap up this particular session. Let me show you a few aspects beyond this. Okay, so that's pretty much it that I had for today, lined up on the CMS aspects. But especially if you want to get to understand much more deeper aspects and build a very strong foundation, I have something called Weekend Framer Workshop. In other words, Framer Workshop that's coming up. You can go ahead and scan the code that you see on the screen and check out the details of this thing. It will take you to the page where you can see all the foundational aspects that you can build. If you want to take web building aspect seriously as a career, this is for you, because it's a jumping ground for you to level up from not just being a tinkerer or a novice at it, but leveling up all the way to the professional, where you can actually start working on the real world projects and start earning money from there. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for those of you who have joined, and I'll connect you back in another live stream. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.